Coming at you live from CBT Studios in the heart of Roseville, California. I'm your host, Andrew, and joined with me, as always, are my two co-hosts,
Matt
and Roger.
And this is the Cryptid versus Cryptid podcast. Now play that funkadelic music. All right, we're back.
Funkadelic.
Again. Yeah, funkadelic.
Okay. Andrew out here making new words.
It's, funky, psychedelic, funkadelic. I'm pretty sure that's something that they said in the 80s.
Most likely. So let's hop in with our thank you, as always, to the listeners. We have yet again hit another milestone for the podcast. Over the course of the time between our last special episode and us now jumping back onto the regular episodic train, we are at 1,526 downloads.
Insane, dude. We're going to smash that milestone. That next one, the goal.
Yeah, we're just about there. We got one more little special gift planned for the end of this little season of fights, so enjoy that when it comes around. And yeah, if you want to reach out to us, talk with us, critique us, or do anything else of the sort communication-wise, you can find us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That is
CRYPTIDVSCRYPTID@gmail.com.
And with all that out of the way, I think it's about time that we finally hop back into a regular series of fights here.
Yeah, let's hop right back into it. So who's going to start us off on the first one? Who are we going with first?
Well, today we have the Skinawlker versus the Enfield Horror. So who wants to take us off with the Skinawlker?
I will do it. Buried within the stories of magic and Native American history, there are stories of what happens when you use the magic for evil. When a medicine man uses their magic for evil too many times, they are cursed and turn into a sort of demonic being known only as Skinwalkers. This is not their only other origin for the Skinwalker, though. Another origin is they served higher deities, but were later corrupted by their greed of wanting to stay on Earth. The Skinwalker is a magical creature, better known for their ability to shapeshift into many different animals, or even people. Though this is not their only other magical ability, fortunately there is little known about the Skinwalkers, as it is taboo to talk about them to people who are not Navajo. Is there a ship-shifting demon lurking out in the woods behind your home, or is it simply a crazy old man wearing the animal skins for dead roadkill?
Pretty crazy. We got in here.
Well, we're finally tackling it. It was definitely one of the popular ones on the radar that people have been wanting to hear, and I figured it was about time.
Yeah, we've got a couple popular ones this season for sure.
And we're going to keep the train alive. So, while we're on the Skinwalkers, we got any creepy tales to tell?
I couldn't find anything specific, like encounter-wise. Like Roger was saying earlier, it is pretty taboo for the Native American peoples to talk about them, so they kind of just avoid it altogether. They're like, yo, we're keeping the legends within our ancestors, and that's how we're gonna do it. So I didn't find any specifics that weren't like references in pop culture.
I've heard a couple stories. There is one about a kid and his grandpa driving on a road in their truck, and in the bed of their truck they hear this loud bang, and the grandpa already kind of knows what was going on, and he tells the kid not to look, not to say anything, and just keep looking forward. And so the Skinwalker, you can hear it crawling around the truck, and then eventually it's about to go forward, and then they have to close their eyes and they stop the truck. And then the Skinwalker kind of just vanishes. And then once they get out, they kind of follow the footprints, and they can see that it's turning from feet, and then it's going from feet to hand, feet, like they're running on all fours. And then eventually it turns into bear claws.
Interesting.
There is a video that I found looking and researching for him. It is on a Daily Star Co. UK, and it's a horrifying moment. Skinwalker leaps out of the long grass and runs towards camera. And it's apparently from a TikTok user that spots the Skinwalker and it jumps out of the fucking bushes and stuff.
I'm checking it out real quick.
Also checking it out real quick.
It was just like a photo I saw, and it's like literally a figure that looks like what a Skinwalker would kind of look like, running in a field. And even if you look up photos of the Skinwalker, it's just fucking nightmare feel sometimes looking at some of these photos. So I can't wait to die tonight.
It looks like the rake, bro. It looks like it's just the rake standing out there in the wilderness.
Bro, could be a Skinwalker that shapeshifted into the rake.
Well, how does the Skinwalker know what the rake is?
I don't know, bro. Maybe they saw it.
That's true of any cryptid, bro. What if it's just the Skinwalker pretending to be that cryptid?
The one thing I always found creepy about the Skinwalker when you kind of listen to like stories and shit is that they'll like describe seeing like an animal like back in the forest, and like if they don't walk towards it, they'll just see the fucking thing like stand up on its hind legs and just fucking start sprinting into the forest or sprinting away.
Yeah, there was another story I heard, and it was a guy on his farm, and he heard two wolves like howling, and they were fighting, and so he kind of shot at them, and he missed them, but then they got up on their hind legs and just fucking ran off.
Yeah, I think I've heard that one. But every time I think about it, I just think of Toby, my dog, just standing up on his two back legs and fucking running. It's kind of funny, but kind of eerie at the same time.
That's actually hilarious, bro, because Toby couldn't move faster than like half of a quarter of a mile, bro, per like hour. This guy, that dog moving any faster would kill him, dude.
Probably.
There's
another thing.
Oh wait.
Go ahead, Roger. Mine can wait till the end.
There was another thing I heard, and it was that usually when they're spotted, they kind of have like this dark aura around them, so you can't really see them. Like it'll be fucking hella bright outside, and you can't see them like barely. They kind of seem to just always be in the shadows.
So like an aura of darkness surrounding them constantly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting. Another thing I like about the Skinwalker, and it can kind of be annoying when you're trying to like do research and find pictures, is that it's really closely tied a lot to the Wendigo. So when you search up like Skinwalker, you'll see pictures that would be more close to what you would picture a Wendigo being. And they also have that same kind of motif where like greed is what feeds their kind of demonic soul, I guess would be a way to put it.
Yeah, they're always kind of like misidentified as each other. It'll be like, oh, that's a Wendigo when it's actually a Skinwalker, or oh, that's the fucking Skinwalker when it's the Wendigo. That was a lot of stories I heard were like, oh wait, this is actually the Wendigo.
Yeah, no, when I was doing some research, I'd be reading the articles or whatever, and then I'd just in the back of my head, it's like, is this a Skinwalker? Because they're really describing more of a Wendigo here than a Skinwalker.
Is it through the transition to animal? Is that what, because of the Wendigo's power over animals? Is that where the mix-up happens, or?
Wendigo isn't really like an animal. He doesn't change into an animal. He gets that weird gray skin kind of, You'll see him with usually like a goat skull on his head, and then maybe like a fur jacket or like fur coat and stuff. But he's never changes into animals, and that's what the Skinwalker is. Is that they can shapeshift, and it's usually into like a coyote or a bear or a panther, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because you're like, oh, this sounds more like a Wendigo. This sounds more like a Skinwalker. Like, where's the mix-up coming from, type thing.
I think it's more of the story of their greed. Like they both come from the story of if they have greed, that's why they are most likely turned into what they are.
More like the sins of man type thing. I gotcha.
Well, and I think a lot of it comes to how the Wendigo has like its decrepit looking form, and then you'll be reading or listening to something talking about a Skinwalker and they're describing it the same way, but really the Skinwalker doesn't have like a pseudo base form since it just shapeshifts into different things. And so I think they confuse the two at some points.
I think both aren't allowed to be talked about amongst the cultures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where also the mix-up comes in.
Well, I think when we were talking about the Wendigo so long ago, that it's something that you don't really want to talk about because when you speak the name Wendigo, it sort of attracts it to you. And I don't know if it's like the same thing for Skinwalker,
No,
though.
Skinwalker is more of if you're not quite in its presence, usually, it's gonna come after you. Like you don't when you like see a Skinwalker in the distance, you don't want to go towards it. You want to kind of keep doing your own thing and stay back and just not pay attention to it.
Yeah. And then another fact that I didn't really know until I started like going in on the research was that not only can they shapeshift, but they also have like abilities to like invade your mind and influence your thoughts and actions, which I had
I'm
never
pretty sure
heard
that
before.
stems from the Native American, like the medicine man being the healing and holistic version, and then when he prays to or when he incites evil, then he gets like evil powers of corruption and stuff like that. So I think that kind of stems from that belief, like, oh, he has powers to corrupt your mind.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. Alright, is there any other fun facts and stories we want to cover before we hop into the big boy talk?
Not that I can think of.
I say let's go to the breakdown.
Alright, we're switching over to stats, abilities, and characteristics. Starting off with characteristics, strange eyes was a big one. No matter what form it takes, there's always like reports of the sightings of them just having strange eyes that are sort of alien to whatever form it's taking.
That's true. It's like all black eyes, I think, usually.
Yeah, something like that. And then I read an article where it was trying to describe it, and I think it may have just gotten it mixed up with a Wendigo, but it is reported to be 7 feet tall.
I mean, I feel like they can just change their height depending on what form they take, so...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So we can scratch that one off, because I think it's really more of a circumstantial thing. Thoughts? Taking it off?
Yeah. Probably just take it
Yeah, because it sounds like it's based on whatever form he takes, so for sure.
Alright. Then hopping over to abilities, we have shape-shifting and mind invasion.
The Dark Aura probably should be added too. That was a big thing with everyone that spotted them for me.
And then do we just want to put down just general evil magic?
Maybe some sort of like kind of slight corruption of the mental state or something like that. Like it doesn't seem like it was like anything like when I was reading about, because I did find that about the corrupting minds thing, but it was more about like when it becomes a person, it can like either go into the person and corrupt their mind, or it could become the person and then they had a corrupted mind as that person. I couldn't make it out completely from what I was reading, but
So how do we want to detail it? Slight corruption magic? Mental corruption magic?
Yeah, I'm just saying from what I read, it didn't seem like it was like anything that could take you over completely from a distance or anything like that. Not anything powerful enough to convey like pure evil in an instant or anything like that.
We can go with slight corruption magic. Alright, and any other abilities we want to throw in here?
Not that I can think of.
No, not really.
Alright, cool. Then that covers abilities. Now, let's hop over to the big talk stats. First, let's cover some intelligence. Now, let's keep in mind that they are, or at least were, human at one point. If they are a medicine man, they would definitely be on the upper echelon of human intelligence, being able to comprehend magic. Now, the question is, when they delve into the evil magic and they're corrupted by it, does that lower their intelligence?
I think corruption as a whole, like with fucking Goatman, I think even Wendigo, we downed it. And honestly, it'd probably be the same as Wendigo. If not, it'd probably be a little higher and it'd be the 10.
So you're voting for corruption as like an intelligence increase or something?
No, decrease. But it seems like they have more abilities than what the Wendigo has. And they're a little bit smarter than what the Wendigo is, whereas the Wendigo kind of also has the, like, bloodlust in its mind, so it doesn't think about its actions before it does it. So it'd be, because I remember we put the Wendigo at like a 9, I think, right?
Wendigo's sitting at an 8 for intelligence.
Oh, then yeah, 9 would probably be better for the Skinwalker.
I think from my interpretation, it was that the medicine man had prayed to like witches or something like that, or some sort of evil force.
Well, I also got the medicine man, like, their greed came to be their...
Overtakes them. Yeah, that was also the Skinwalker origin of they were originally just like a helpful entity, and then their greed made them stay or something like that. So it's definitely something to do with either greed or a wanting of
to stay alive,
like beyond,
to stay on Earth and not leave.
More like a wanting of like beyond what you're meant to contain. Like something more. You want more than you're supposed to have or something like that. But I think that overall it kind of, the idea of corruption means you lose at least your morals or something. So I think that's definitely a detractor, but like Roger's saying, I think a 9's probably fine because it's not so far that you've become inhuman, which is kind of funny in that term, but
yeah, I also like a 9. My big argument for shooting with the 9 was that when you do hear stories of the Skinwalkers, they do retain the ability of communication, which is another big thing for me whenever we discuss intelligence when it comes to these cryptids. So I'm cool with the 9. Seems like you guys are cool with the 9 as well. Now, what are we thinking for power?
I feel like power can really vary with them because of this whole shape-shifting thing, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because then they could be like a fucking coyote where their power is like 2, and then all of a sudden they're a fucking gorilla and their power is basically like a 10 or a 9.
Now, that was a question I was going to bring up later, but do you think that a Skinwalker would even know what animals that aren't in like Native America are, because this is more of a Native American spirit or entity or creature?
I think it would be limited to its knowledge of more of the American animals in the forest.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that still kind of leaves it with like bear strength and then cougar strength.
Yeah, I'm just saying because you did bring up the gorilla, and I was like, I don't know if it's a bear is still probably pretty on par with a gorilla. So
I mean, honestly, if it's roaming around, you'd think it would come by a zoo, and it would see.
that's what I was going to bring up too, as the counter argument to my own point. It's like, okay, well maybe it's been to a zoo before in its life, and then it knows. But
I think for the sake of argument, we should stick with just wild animal in America. Or the Americas. And then that's another
as far
thing.
as that goes, that's still a range, though.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to bring up. We've only dealt with one shapeshifter before, but it was one of our last fights in the water season.
It was the Slayer of all beings. What's his face?
It wasn't Omnicook.
No, you're talking about fuck, what is he? I forget his name now. He's the one that's like known as a chimera, right? That's the one you're talking about, Matt.
The Chimeran, yeah.
I swear, because the Omnicook could become a person.
No, it was the Bunyip.
But yeah, Bunyip.
Oh.
Omnicook couldn't become a person.
That's right.
The Omnicook can go inside a person and kill them if they like touch the ground or were having like a cane or something.
Now,
I know for a fact that I said something about the Omnicook being able to be a person.
Oh, that's right, they can. But they can only like walk in a straight line.
so with that one, they only transformed into like 2, maybe 3 different forms, so we just picked the one form. Now, here's my crazy theory that we can go with to continue doing this episode. Do we want to just take the highest stats from each of his transformations for all the different stats?
No, because that seems like it would be ridiculous.
That'd still be a long list. If we are going with wild animals, what's the strongest animal that is in the Americas, do you think? And I guess we could just go with that.
It's got to be a bear.
Hippos aren't native here. There's alligators. Yeah, I guess a bear would probably be the strongest. I guess it would be a bear, but what would be a bear's strength? An 8? Or maybe like a 7?
Oh, bison. That's a good one.
I was thinking of like an animal on their 4 legs. I feel like a bison or like a horse's kick is fucking strong.
Yeah, that or like a wolf, or not a wolf, a moose or something like that.
Mooses are
like,
fucking terrifying.
Mooses are huge, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are crazy.
So before we delve into this, are we going with he sticks with one animal or he can change between forms?
I'm just thinking of it is that if we find the highest, if we're going with wild animals, if we find the highest caliber, that would have to be his peak strength right there. That'd be his peak power.
Yeah, for that one stat. Are we going to do that? So let's say we hit mobility. Are we going to pick a different animal for his peak mobility, which would lead him to being able to transform mid-fight?
Well, that's their whole thing, is that they transform just randomly.
I think our best bet is probably to take aside from intelligence, because that would be based off of his own mind, because he's still the same creature.
Yeah, still the same.
On the inside, he's still on the outside is what's changed. So I think on the next 5, we take the highest stat and from whichever animal, and then during the fight, we represent that stat as that animal. So if he's ever going for an attack, we say he goes into his most powerful form, and if he ever has to defend from anything, he goes into his most defensive form and whatnot.
Yeah, that's where I was leading with when I first brought it up. So then power. We're thinking the moose.
Mooses are pretty fucking strong, bro. And they are durable as fuck, too. Like, if you hit that shit with the car, the moose is gonna be walking away. The car ain't driving away. The car's done.
I think it's true, but in like sheer force, like a moose ramming you is gonna suck, but a bear clawing your face is probably gonna be more drastic. So I think a bear's probably a good power scale.
But if we're just talking about pure power.
Pure power overall. But I'm talking about, like, in the fight, what do you think he'd turn into in terms of trying to deal
either
with
probably turn
I mean, I have some thoughts. Plus, I think when it comes to, like, strategy during the fight of what to turn into, that's a different factor than just pure base power.
I think the bear would be more of, like, a defense mechanism. Like a defense thing. Because bears are pretty fucking durable.
Yeah, but then he just becomes like an armadillo or something like that.
Alright, well, let's not jump to defense too quick. We're sticking with power at the moment.
I think overall, like a bison's probably the best, just because it's so bulky. Like there's a lot of force. Like a moose is strong, don't get me wrong, but it's also like super tall. Whereas a bison's just all bulk, bro. If a bison hits you, you're dead. It
Well,
doesn't
it's the
matter.
same with the moose. Mooses are also faster, and with the more force and the weight they have,
Bro, we're not getting to speed yet. Come on. Power,
that's a
baby.
speed has
Power.
a thing to do with power, though. The faster you go to hit something, the harder it's gonna fucking hit.
I'm just saying the bison's like the hippo of the Americas. It's gonna like just destroy you. It'll obliterate you.
I mean, we can go with the bison.
I don't
I
know.
don't know what its power would be.
Matt, what are you thinking?
I'm also on the bison boat.
Yo, bison boat. That's our tour boat.
But yeah, what would a bison's power be?
I say give it a 9.
Yeah, I like a 9. Roger.
Yeah, nine's fine.
Dope. Alright, now let's talk some defense. Which animal is he whipping out for his maximum defense? Andrew, you had mentioned armadillo, I believe.
I think. I don't know, bro. Defensively, what do we have? Because I'm thinking like maybe a reptile would be good, just because the the scales, on the skin being a good deflector for a lot
but
of
reptiles would
sharp
be
things. But
pretty small, and that's not really good for defense.
that's true.
I was liking the bear argument for this. Bears can take quite a bit of damage.
That's what I was gonna.
And they
bring up,
got
too.
some
like
thick
Roger had a
fur
good
and
point
fat.
earlier.
If bears had defense, I think their defense would probably be like a 7.
Yeah, I could be in that boat. Would there be another animal that you think would have a higher defense than a 7?
No,
No?
not in the Americas. No.
Alright. Andrew?
No, all I can think of are like small animals that have like random things. But honestly, if you're just in a brawl like this is probably going to turn out being, a bear's pretty good because it's overall its size too lends great to defense.
Alright, then do we want to give the bear a 7?
Oh, maybe like an 8. I don't know. Did you have input on the number?
Honestly, I kind of like the 8 just because of the thick fur and the big build size. And I mean, bears are known for being able to take a lot of hits before they can fall down. But yeah, I'm thinking bear is closer to an 8 than a 7 myself.
Yeah, I also like it.
Yeah, it's good. I'm just trying not to give him too fucking stacked of stats.
Yeah, but he's also stacked, kind of cryptid when you get down to it. Alright, then we'll go 8. Andrew, you can add on the little abbreviation.
Okay.
While Andrew does that, what are we thinking is going to be his fastest land animal?
It'd have to be either like a snake, like something that's small, or like probably like a wolf or a coyote or something.
I was thinking something like a mountain lion or something closer to like a cheetah, but not exactly.
So like a panther or a cougar or something.
Yeah, maybe like a cougar or
I wasn't even thinking cougar. That's a good one.
Yeah, probably a cougar would be good because they are pretty agile. That's also part of mobility.
Yeah, no, being a cat, they are very agile.
Now, for mobility wise, 7 for sure.
So the cougar's
a
top
horse.
running speed ranges between 40 to 50 miles per hour.
yeah, bro. Horses are like up to 54 miles an hour.
The average race horse's speed is approximately 40 to 44 miles per hour.
Oh, I just looked up fast horses.
There's also ones that are up to 55. But I think cougar, honestly, is the best way to go because, like Roger said, not only is it fast, it's also really agile.
That's true.
And then you give it the ability to also be able to climb up terrain.
Yeah, they're just more of like the animal to go for that can do shit and be agile and shit.
But numerical-wise, where would we put the cougar? I know you said 7, but this thing's a fast and agile animal.
I'm going to be honest. I like the 7, though. I do. Like, the 7 definitely resonates here. Just because it's not, like, the fastest animal on the planet or anything like that. It's still very quick, yes. But I don't know if it's quick enough to get an 8.
No, because what we given that's higher than an 8? We gave
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra was a big one just because no one's ever seen it, and so they did all those killings hella fast in a night, basically. I think we gave Ami Cook higher, or maybe it was an 8. It's just because...
I believe Ami Cook was our 10 speed, our second 10 speed.
And that was because
Ami Cook had a 10.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think of anything that can. And for a normal animal, I would think, especially like a cougar, a base of 7 would probably be the best bet. Because
No, actually, the Chupacabra only had an 8.
What did we give it?
No
No, we
way.
gave it a 10. I know we did.
We gave 10 stealth. That's what we gave it. Because it's never been seen.
No, I think I modified.
Wendigo. Dogman had a 9. Wendigo had a 7.
No, but like I was saying, I think a base for an animal, just like a normal animal, a 7 would probably be good. Especially something like a cougar or a panther or anything like that.
So we're going with 7 mid-range.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah, I like 7 for sure.
Alright, now let's hop over to HP. I don't know of any animal in the Americas that's really shown off for HP wise.
Yeah.
I'd almost
That'd be
fall
more
back
like an
into
underwater animal or something.
Yeah, I'd almost fall back into just one of the bigger, bulkier animals we've already talked about to give it a higher HP.
I think I was going to save more of a bison for that.
I mean, I don't think there's a problem with going back and using other ones that we've already used, unless we're trying to keep the diversity of stats for different animals high.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna check on one real quick.
even so, I think more of like animals and everything of their HP would probably be normally again a 7, maybe a 6. But if it has it kind of has a magic aura around it, I think that would give it maybe a little boost for the HP. And so it'd give it like a 1-up of whatever the base health of anything would be.
The funniest thing is the bison's basically the largest animal in America anyway. So
yeah, I think the bison would be just a pretty key factor to go into HP. Because nothing really pops to my head other than that.
yeah, I mean the moose is the second largest anyway, so it's either the bison or the moose.
I mean, just raw stat-wise, I think bison's the smartest way to go.
Yeah, he already becomes it anyway. So
What are we thinking numerical-wise?
A 7.
see, this is one where I'd push for an 8, but if you guys really are both 7 trained, I'll go 7.
I mean, I can be swayed. I'm not super hyper-focused on the 7.
I think 7's fine. I think 7's fine.
Alright, then we'll stick with 7. Give me 1 second. My computer was being gay. Now let's talk stealth. Now, before we pick an animal, I think the Skinwalker's already a bit at an advantage with stealth because of the dark aura that's always shrouding him in darkness. So I think that automatically gives him like a +1 to whatever his base is already going to be.
I was just going to say, because he can become animals, that just gives him a boost in stealth anyway, because you're not looking for an animal, you're looking for a creature, and then...
You're looking for one creature when it shapeshifts into another creature, and then it attacks you.
Exactly. So this is another one that I'd be willing to give a 10, probably, just because it's not even what you're looking for at any point in time.
Yeah, actually, I think even without giving an animal, I'm fine with the 10.
Yeah.
Alright, there we go. The Skinwalker got away with a pretty good stat roundup with the way we took it. Sitting at Intelligence 9, Power 9, Defense 8, Mobility 7, HP 7, Stealth 10. And I can't really think of
This might be the highest overall stat total we've given to a cryptid.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Do any classes come to mind for this guy? Because I can't really think of any.
A beast, bro. Like a just axe-wielding barbaric knight. Crazy.
Knight,
Very-
rogue,
Or a shapeshifter.
ranger.
He's multi-classing.
Exactly. He's just the shapeshifter class. That's
He
what
can't
he is.
pick a class to stay with, so he just switches every time.
Exactly.
He's got like 4 different characters on his one profile.
All right. We hopping over to Enfield Horror? Or Enfield Horror, sorry.
Yep, do you want to take us away with Enfield Horror, or do you want me to?
Yeah, let's go.
Alright, go ahead.
All right. Deep within the suburbs of Enfield, Illinois, there's a creature that terrorized the people of this town for a few weeks before completely disappearing. The first sighting was of a boy who was attacked by the creature, which tore his shoes to shreds before he was able to escape. The child reported that this creature had 3 legs, 2 T-Rex arms, and bright pink eyes. The sightings become more terrifying after this, as the creature continues to move throughout the neighborhood. It goes on to terrify children by trying to break into their house. This all led to a monster hunting expedition by some members of the town, which caused some people to get arrested and possibly scared of this elusive cryptid. Could this creature be a strange, alienish monster that enjoys haunting small towns and children, or could this just be another case of mass hysteria that took over the town?
Yeah, so the Enfield Horror. This is one of my favorite cryptids. I came across it months and months ago on a podcast, and it just intrigued me. Mainly because of the way it looks and the just elusiveness after the fact of all this stuff happening.
Yeah, it kind of seems like Indiana is just a fucking cryptid town or cryptid state. Like, that's where the Thunderbird is originally from, too. And there's a shit ton more in Illinois.
Definitely. Are there any of these stories we want to go into further detail? Because there's not really much we can talk about since it's really only spotted in Enfield during its time.
There's not many.
You kind of described the stories when you wrote down the synopsis, really. I mean, the one with the kid and then the one in the house were really the 2 that I came across.
Yeah. I know when it was first spotted was like 1973. I don't have any other stories that I can think of.
Yeah, no, it was pretty much in the early 70s, just for about a couple weeks. I believe that when the break-in, or when it was trying to break into the house, it was scratching, it was trying to rip out their AC vent. It ran away. The parents of the children came home, saw scratch marks all over the door, and they were like, what the fuck happened? And then the scratching continued. The dad opens the door, thinking like it's a raccoon or something, sees that it's this giant creature, or this monstrous creature, closes the door, goes to get his .22 caliber pistol, comes back, I believe he shoots it, it lets out like this cat-like scream, and then just runs away. I also know one of the guys on the town went on to like the radio, told his story. Another guy, like at 3 a.m., was for some reason on the train tracks and saw this creature just running down the train tracks. And then another thing. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure that was the same guy that saw from the house thing, right?
I know it was a guy who's had seen it before. He had come up once or twice in the story. I just don't know if it's the dad of the children who the creature was trying to break
many
into
of the
the
police.
house.
I found the story. It was many of the police were skeptical about what happened to McDaniel, which was the guy that shot at it with the shotgun. Despite just having received the news of an attack on a small boy just 30 minutes earlier. That's when it was. So all these like stories kind of happened around the same time as well. So it was like, oh, this one happened, and then this fucking kid got attacked. And so that kind of adds on to credibility of this cryptid as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, a bulk of the sightings were in like that 1 to 2 day period, and then there was like another sighting a couple weeks later before it all came to an end and was never really talked about again. But is that everything we want to discuss for the Enfield Horror? Besides the big stuff?
I mean, overall, it's not much of a backstory type cryptid. It's more of a, one and done, as in like a one event type thing. So I think we can hop into stats.
Alright, cool. Now let's talk about stats, abilities, characteristics. Characteristics, I think, are going to be the most interesting part of this cryptid, seeing as it's described with having three legs, 2 small T-Rex-like arms. They guessed it weighed about 200 pounds and was approximately 4 feet tall. So this guy's got a lot of bulk to him, being only 4 feet tall and about 200 pounds.
When you see the pictures of him, he kind of seems just kind of like a fat blob as well. So
He definitely seems very, like, there's too much going on, you know? There's a lot of limbs there, so...
Yeah, I just want to pull up the picture real quick for when we're going over it all. Yeah, very gross looking, weird amalgamation of a creature. It's also got a very odd looking gaping mouth.
Yeah, I don't know if that was some of the stories or if that's just something that everyone gives him in their image, but...
I think it was in some of those stories.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was his actual mouth or the bottom of the feet that shredded the kid's shoes. But it definitely has that mouth gang.
I'm pretty sure it said the claws tore up the kid's shoes.
The claws, alright. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much else to describe besides the odd characteristics of this cryptid. So let's... Oh, also, I couldn't find any specific abilities. I don't know if you guys did, but there wasn't anything that stuck out to me.
No,
Not
I
really.
didn't really find anything.
Alright, cool. Then let's hop into stats. Let's talk about intelligence. I don't think it's going to be very high.
I just kind of want to throw, like, a 6 out there.
I was thinking a 6 as well.
It seems intelligent enough to, like, move around and, you know, get from place to place. But it doesn't try and communicate with anyone. So it's not like it's even... You know, because even animals try to communicate with people, but this thing just apparently scratches things up, so...
Alright then, I'm fine with 6. There's no good sign of higher intelligence. It's kind of just around the base. And I can kind of justify giving it higher than a 5 because it is this special creature. And it did know to not come back after it was shot. So there's some semblance of non-complete stupidity there.
Yeah, it has knowledge.
Let's hop over to power. Anybody want to take us away with a number?
I'm
Ballpark
just throw like a
7?
9 or 8 out there.
At 9. Wow, this guy blew my 7 out of the water.
Yeah, Jesus.
Sheesh. What's giving it the 9?
Well, it's also like 200 pounds, and so I feel like with that bulk, it's already pretty fucking strong. So if it swings at you, you're gonna feel it.
I can get behind that. It also has the sharp claws and the jagged looking mouth teeth.
Yeah.
Okay. 9 power. So this thing's equal to a bison. This thing could...
I'm not saying... I don't know if it's a 9. I definitely think it's got some power behind it. Maybe an 8.
I was gonna say an 8, for sure.
I could see it being an 8.
Alright, cool. Let's roll with an 8 for power then. Defense? Thinking middle of the road here, probably like a 6 or a 7.
Really? This is one that I'd probably give it a little higher defense, just because it's obviously not, like, human skin that this thing's made out of, but...
No.
The fact that I can't really put a pinpoint on what it is, then I guess, I don't know, I kind of wanted to go with a 7, but...
I mean, it does seem to have a lot of skin. And the skin does have like a rough kind of texture look to it. I don't know.
Then again, it got shot, but it still lived after it got shot.
And it was by a shotgun.
The thing is, can we attribute that to defense or to HP?
Well, it seemed like the shotgun didn't even really phase it either. The guy says he shot it, and he knows he shot it, but it still came after him.
Yeah, and it kind of just screeched when it got shot.
So, maybe 7? 7 or an 8, maybe?
I'm thinking 8.
I mean, if you get shot and you're not phased by it, that's got to be pretty defensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with giving it an 8.
Okay. All right.
Now let's talk about mobility. I do want to
This
say
thing's gotta be slow.
no. When you read, it is said that it runs very well with its 3 legs.
It said that it has incredible speed with a lot of the reports.
Because heard the my biggest one is the train tracks thing. It sounded like it was just kind of loping around, and then it just wandered off. Like,
Yeah, but I feel
Yeah,
like I think he also said that in the story, he's like, he saw it and it saw him, and then it fucking ran away with incredible speed and was gone within like seconds.
and that's also it kind of just like trotting around. It's not like running from anything at all.
I don't know. Usually, it just doesn't seem like I have a real mark on its speed here. It sounds like you guys know a little more about it. So,
Okay, I found a speed feat here. McDaniel fired 4 shots at this creature, 1 shot hitting it and causing it to make a hiss, much like a wildcat's, before fleeing towards a nearby railway embankment covering 50 feet in 3 jumps. So yeah, he's pretty fast. And he's leaping. He's not necessarily just walking around or trotting around.
You know, I definitely don't think this guy is slow in any regards.
then how fast is he?
That's a good question.
Now, I'm going to say this. We gave the Skinwalker a 7 with the Cougar transformation, and Cougar's averaged top speed is 40 to 50 miles per hour. So I'm saying this thing's got to be at least in that range. I also want to say to hit max speed, it's going to take a little bit of speed up to running, whereas this thing just cleared 50 feet instantaneously when it started leaping. So
Honestly,
I'm feeling
I'd
like
probably give it an 8.
an 8.
I can see an 8.
All right, then let's hop in with an 8. Now let's talk HP, which rolls us back into the shotgun blast argument. So if we take in the fact that he's still, after being hit with the shotgun, and he is reported to be seen a couple weeks later, he's got to have a lot of HP, I would believe, to still be able to keep going after something like that, whether it's high defense or high HP. He still would have taken some damage. And when he's seen, he seems to be fine and he's just walking around nonchalantly. He's also got the 200 pounds of weight behind him. Any other thoughts in the argument before I throw out a number?
No, hit me with a number.
Alright, I think it's safe to go with a baseline of 7, just because when we talk about cryptids with high HP thresholds, it's mainly because they have like a large body to propel this thing, to propel their HP to really high thresholds. And so I think this guy has a big body for his height. He just seems to be a bit compressed, and I think being able to take the shotgun blast and survive, while it's also a factor in the defense, I still think it factors into HP as well.
I like it.
Yeah, I'd probably go with the same thing.
Alright, then we're cool with, I think I said a 7.
Yeah.
Dope. Okay, and lastly, let's talk stealth. Now, I'm on 2 sides. This thing either has really high stealth or really low stealth.
I would jump in the low stealth boat just because I think it's not trying to hide. Like, when it was trying to attack the children, it's not like it was being discreet about it or anything.
I will say this to counteract that argument. It did completely disappear between the time of the parents getting there and the children hearing the scratching. The parents did not see it at all, and then it came back very quickly after they arrived home. And it completely vanishes after the 2 weeks.
That's true. I think that between the 2 weeks and now, like, I think it's relevant in the instance that we're taking all this based off of basically one event that happened. So I think that the parents getting home thing is, it could go for low stealth too, because like the parents get home, like you said, it comes back quickly after. It almost seems like it wants these people to know it's there.
It's kind of trying to scare him away.
Yeah.
Alright, I see where you guys are coming at.
I don't know, I'd probably give it like a 5. Because as that speed plays a big factor into it, that's about it. It doesn't.
I give it a 4, and I like Roger's reasoning. Yeah, the speed plays a big factor into it getting away, but I think overall stealth, like this thing was just completely trying to, go after people, and then the only reason it ran away because someone shot at it, and it was like, whoa, what the hell.
It's also, you gotta go to this, is that a lot of these stories are connected to happening almost the same night. So, how did no one else see it? If it's running around to these different places, no one else saw it besides these people.
I don't want to go. I can go 5. I don't want to go 4 just because I really like the factor of it disappearing right before the parents get home and then reappearing and it not being seen in that short period of time when the parents get there. But I also don't think besides that it has any other good feat to propel it any higher than a 5.
I can go up to a 5.
All right, cool. Let's see here. 5. Okay. And with this drawing to the end of our stats, let's do a quick roundup. For the Enfield Horror, characteristics: 3 legs, 2 small T-Rex-like arms, 200 pounds of weight, 4 feet tall. No abilities. Stats: intelligence of 6, power of 8, defense of 8, mobility of 8, HP of 7, stealth 5. Now, let's hop over to Skinawlker. Characteristics: strange eyes, abilities: shape-shifting, mind invasion, dark aura, slight corruption magic. Stats: intelligence 9, power 9 of a bison, defense 8 of a brown bear, mobility 7 of a cougar, HP 7 of a bison, and stealth 10. We have some pretty well-rounded cryptids that are up to bat today.
Yeah, these ones came into the fight. I was like, whoa, crazy. These guys seem, a little skewed to one side or another. And then they come out of the stat roundup looking like some of our heaviest hitters, some of our quickest ones, some of our most mobile and defensive. So,
yeah, when I first came in with these two cryptids in mind, I was thinking, okay, I know of the Enfield Horror. I think it's going to fuck the Skinawlker up. Then we started discussing Skinawlker, and I was like, okay, Skinwalker's fucking this thing up. And then we finally finished off with Enfield Horror, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a pretty close one.
All right. We're going to think about the arena, or?
Yeah. I don't really have a pinpoint on an arena this time.
I'm thinking, it seems like the Enfield Horror's hometown is Illinois. Why not just have Skinawlker roll up there?
Now, is it going to be in the forest of Illinois?
I think so, probably. I mean, that's where the horror flies off to anyway.
All right. Then we have this fight taking place between the Skinawlker and the Enfield Horror in the forest on the outskirts of Illinois. Now, before we hop into the main event of this episode is brought to you in part by our Patreon.
Our Patreon, let's go.
Now, what can our listeners find over on Patreon?
We got the Cryptids and Caverns D&D role-playing thing. We only have one episode. Hopefully we'll have episode 2 at some point.
Definitely at some point. Scheduling conflicts, but we will get them resolved.
We also have the after hours in there. We talk about random shit. Have fun times.
Yeah, if you enjoy us bullshitting, you want to hear us talking about other things besides cryptids and fighting, come over and check it out. And sometimes we even talk about that. What else do we got over there, Andrew?
We've got the holiday special episodes. We've got a link to the Discord, which is now working completely. There's always one thing I miss, I swear.
Now I think that's about it. I know we have ideas for more content to come out in the future. It's more of just finding the time to sit down and record that stuff so we can put it out.
Yeah, we definitely have a bunch of ideas of stuff that'll go over there anyway. Like I say usually, it's ever growing, but you're paying the same rate. So you're basically paying the same amount of money for content that's continually expanding. Like, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, would I dare say it's a cracked deal?
It is a pretty cracked deal.
But yeah, if you enjoy us and you want an easy way to chat to us, come over to Patreon. In the future, if we get more patrons, we'll even let you decide some episodes which cryptids we're going to pin against each other, since I have figured out how to do polls over there.
Nice, nice.
With our little ad block out of the way, let's hop back into today's main event. Skinwalker rolls into the forests of Illinois, comes across this mysterious-looking creature, a.k.a. the Enfield Horror. Who's making the first move?
You know,
I definitely...
I think Enfield Horror he kind of seems more like an aggressor in a way.
I was going to say the same. I was going to say I think the Skinwalker definitely waits like, oh, what? This is an animal I don't know anything about. What is this? And then it just rolls up like, yo, what the hell is this guy? Time to scratch at him.
Now, do you think that the Skinwalker would try to use some of its slight corruption magic on the Enfield Horror before, or even during his initiation of the attack?
Probably. I don't see why not.
I think it's a factor at play, but I think it's a more long-term thing. So maybe it's going on the whole fight, and it really gives him an advantage near the end, more so than in the beginning.
And here's my thing. Would the mind corruption really play a factor on a creature that is lower than a base human intelligence?
That's a very good point, honestly. I wasn't even thinking about that. I mean, in a sense that it's not like controlling it, it's just kind of corrupting its intelligence. I think maybe not. Like if it was controlling it like a minion, that would make for a different argument, but because of the fact that it's really just like, oh, become evil like me, I don't think this thing even really has a morality scale, so.
And then here's my other thing. Do we think the Skinwalker could take the form of the Enfield Horror?
If it can, it's not doing it at first.
I say no, only because we're not sure if it's an animal or not.
Okay. Yeah, I also wasn't really on the boat, but it's something I definitely wanted to see your guys' opinion on. And so let's take it from the point that the Enfield Horror is charging at the Skinwalker. What form do you guys think the Skinwalker would take, or would have already taken, before the fight? I would say, I think when it gets rolled up on, it'd probably be in Cougar, just because it's trying to cover, it seems to be traveling, and it's trying to cover a much broader distance. So Cougar would be the logical way to go.
Yeah, if we're sticking to just the 3 animals that we've got for stats, Cougar's probably its travel animal.
Yeah. I mean, a bear would be good too, just because if any humans see a bear, a lot of them are just gonna be like, I don't want to fuck with that, and they kind of just avoid it. But Cougar's probably a better one.
I mean, you could say the same about a cougar, honestly. If I see a cougar outside, I'm not gonna fuck with it,
Also, I think it'd be more logical that it went with Cougar, because while we didn't put it in the stealth factor, I think Cougar's also a more stealthy animal than any of the ones we picked out.
It is, because they hide in the trees and shit.
And here was my last thing I wanted to bring up before we really get into the nitty-gritty of the fight. Are we putting a time factor between all transformations?
I think it can be instantaneous, like a morph from one to the other, but I think that the more it transforms, the more it starts to tire itself out, really, because it seems like it would probably be a strenuous activity if it's not like something, it seems more like a physical thing it can do. So, I mean, all that shifting of your, bodily components around continuously seems to be something that's probably going to wear you out over a while.
I was going to say the opposite. I think it would take time to shapeshift for them. I don't think it would strain them, but it seems like they're shapeshifting as like the footprints usually go. People that follow it, they go literally from footprints, then they start crawling on all fours, and then it would be whatever animal they would find, like a coyote or bear tracks or whatever.
All right, so it's that animal's footprints, and then it's the animal's footprints on all fours, and then it's the new animal?
Well, no, it's more of that it's in a human form, and you see footprints, then you start to see foot and handprints, like they're running in all fours.
Yeah.
And then they transform.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going with it. So it does seem to be time between transformations.
It does. Unless they're doing that on purpose, but I almost highly doubt it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't see an advantage to doing it purposely. All right, I just wanted to get that out of the way before we started really talking about too much. Now, do you think... Here's my thing. I think that it might retreat into the shadows, maybe cover some distance, because it probably doesn't think Cougar would be the best matchup for this thing. And with the Stealth 10, I could see it disappearing into the shadows and then coming back as a different animal to really get the fight going.
Yeah, I see it going into the trees like the shadows, and the Enfield Horror is kind of confused, and then all of a sudden a fucking bison starts charging at it.
That's true. You know, the more I've looked at our stats overall, it's not looking good for the Enfield Horror, honestly. Just because that factor that he can turn to something else is huge, but it's also the Stealth 10 really kind of kills it no matter what, because it's in a forest. So as long as it can gain any sort of distance, or, you know, any move away in any shape, it come back as something else. I mean, that's got to be confusing as hell for a creature with a 6 intelligence, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the logical thing for the Skinwalker to do. Retreat with its high stealth. Come back as the bison, since I think the bison would be the most well-rounded, or the most powerhouse of all of them, taking all stats into factor.
Yes.
And then it kind of just becomes a brawl, and I don't know if the Enfield Horror could keep up with it forever.
Yeah. See, this is how I picture it. I see that the Cougar kind of vanishes in the darkness, and the Enfield Horror is confused. Then all of a sudden a bison just kind of darts out from the darkness in the forest, hits the Enfield Horror, and then the Skinwalker changes into like a bear or something, and then it kind of becomes a brawl between a bear and the Enfield Horror.
I definitely see the same thing happening. In the sense that, you know, backs off, bison hits it, and then comes, you know, it gets that good strike in first, then comes back as a bear, because then it wants to be able to take the hits. Because Enfield Horror is definitely throwing some hits in, but I don't know. Overall, it definitely seems like it would have the advantage at the very beginning, as start off strong, and then, you know, continually try and either whittle it down or...
I think the Skinwalker isn't really going home unscarred, because they both have these fucking razor claws, especially the Enfield Horror. So I think the Skinwalker's coming down with like maybe an arm loss or something that's gonna be like a giant gash on its chest or something. But at the end of the day, I think the Skinwalker's gonna win.
And I also think the best bet for the Enfield Horror getting in some massive damage would be to chase down the Skinwalker while it's mid-transformation to get some free hits off. So, because let's say the battle starts, like we've said many times, Cougar transformation goes to retreat. Maybe the Enfield Horror, being that it's faster, it could catch up, land a couple hits before it's able to escape or make the transformation and do some decent damage, because the Cougar wouldn't have very high defense.
That implies the Enfield Horror even knows that this thing's antagonistic before the bison hits it.
Yeah, but I thought we also established that the Enfield Horror is just going to attack regardless. It initiates the fight.
That's true. I was under the implication that it was an aggressor if we started the fight off with both of them like in a base form, but then we started talking about the Cougar thing. So,
but yeah, I think that's the best bet. It could get some hits off there. Then let's say it starts going back and forth with the bison. Then the Skinwalker decides, okay, I want to switch to the bear for some more defense. I also think that the Enfield Horror could get some hits off while it's transformed into the brown bear. But I think how well rounded the stats are for the Skinwalker in a lot of its animal forms would just be too much for the Enfield Horror to manage for a long period of time.
Yeah, I also think the fact that the Enfield Horror has the like leaps or jumps or whatever, I think that definitely helps it out as well. Not enough to give it the edge, but definitely like if it ever needs to retreat, it just hops up in the air for a sec, and then that also could put a little bit more weight behind its swings. But because this thing just went to its most defensive form for most of the fight, I don't see it edging it out in any way or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good escape tactic, but the Enfield Horror doesn't really have anything to use once it escapes. Besides, I will say maybe it does while the Skinwalker's in bison form or bear form. It could hop up, maybe up a small tree or something, and then jump down and put all its weight onto the Skinwalker to do like a kind of pounce attack.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Some sort of like jumping strike. But
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, I think the Skinwalker, with its well-diverse stats and ability to change forms to fit the situation, I think Skinwalker's going to be taking this one home.
I think so as well. I think it seemed like it would probably wind up to a big fight, but honestly, the Skinwalker has a little too much of an advantage overall. Especially, I think what really kind of was the detractor for the Enfield Horror was its intelligence, because it just doesn't seem smart enough to outplay the Skinwalker in any field, really.
Yeah, and when I was thinking of like, oh, it could take advantage of, the Skinwalker mid-transformation, I don't think of it as like thinking, okay, it's vulnerable now, let's get it. I think it's just continuing its attacks, and it just happens to get lucky when it's mid-transforming that it lands attacks.
Yeah.
It's not like waiting for it to transform and then attacking at the right time.
What also killed it from the Enfield Horror was the stats that we gave it. I mean, it has 3 8s, a 7, and a 6 5, but if you look at the fucking Skinwalker, 2 9s, a 10, 2 7s, and an 8, it just kind of outclasses him.
Yeah. And then when it does change forms, if we were to factor in like bison defense and bison mobility or bear power, bear mobility, bear HP, or even the cougar has decent power, every form it has is going to be really well rounded. And so it doesn't really have a flaw, as to where I think the Enfield Horror doesn't really have any flaws, but it doesn't have very many advantages either. And with it being a smaller size, I really do think that makes it an easier target to take down compared to the bigger forms that the Skinwalker can take.
Exactly.
Alright, so I think we're all in agreement that the Skinwalker takes home the victory belt for this episode of Cryptid vs. Cryptid.
That he does.
And, as always, the Enfield Horror will have its chance at redemption when he comes back in the Cryptid vs. Cryptid Mashup and Rehash, Episode 3. But for now, we welcome the Skinwalker into the Hall of Champions. And with today's fight concluded, let's talk about our thoughts and believability on these two cryptids. Andrew, you're at the top of the Discord chat, so why don't you start us off with Skinwalker?
I think as far as Skinwalker goes, I'm gonna have to go with completely unbelievable. Just because I don't see a creature that can shapeshift into animals as anywhere other, like in any other sort of medium than Native American folklore. I think it's another one of these, warding off children's stories that we've talked about in the past. But it doesn't seem like something that it's feasible.
I also think it's a great boogeyman story. Like a lot of the Native American creature stories are, they do seem to just be kind of stories they tell to ward people off from certain things, and in this instance it kind of be warding them off from like dangerous animals or strange things they've never seen. Just stay away, you don't know what it could be. I do, on the other hand, like the idea of maybe it is just not like evil, but a bad magic man wearing the skins of animals that it's killed, that he or she, I think, has killed, and is just terrorizing locals. And it being a Native American story, I do put a slight higher amount of believability into it. But when it does tie into this more magical sense, it is a bit harder for me to get behind than other more natural cryptids are. But I still like it.
Yeah. Also, going back to like other cryptids, kind of had their form stay the same continuously, and that like let's just take Bigfoot because he's our go-to guy. It's like, yeah, this is a creature that stayed the same throughout his continuity, so it's a little bit more believable versus something that could change forms at any time. It's super difficult to believe in because you're not even sure if it was that or if it was just something that looked like it.
Roger.
Yeah, I'm not too big on the believability of the Skinwalker. For me, I believe the wheat and Wendigo more as like a fever-inducing thing, and that's what causes people to become Wendigo. Whereas the Skinwalker is just literally a boogeyman story, and that's all it's ever gonna be. Just kind of stay away from whatever looks weird.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take us away with the Enfield Horror since I'm underneath Andrew in Discord. I don't know. I kind of like it. I understand mass hysteria, and a lot of times, like, when it is brought up and confirmed, it does make sense. Whenever it's brought up and it's not something that's been heavily researched into that area of mass hysteria for, I have a hard time diving into the whole mass hysteria argument. I think it's weird. I just don't... There's no kind of feasible explanation I can bring up to account for a creature like this or discount. You really have to believe all in it, or you just don't believe in it at all. And I'm really just in the I don't believe in it at all kind of thing. I think this little kid could have brought up some lies about his shoes and just made up a story, maybe to get himself out of trouble. The other kids heard about it, they brought it up, and then it just got a bit exaggerated from there, which I guess would be the mass hysteria.
I'm definitely with you on that. I think that, let's say this kid brings it up, the other kids hear about it, they bring it up to their dad. Their dad thinks, you know what? I want my quick moment of fame, and, decides to come up with some story. The police check it out. Someone else says something because they hear about it. And then after they realize, hey, no one's really catching on to this whole thing. We can't just make up our own, cryptid out of nowhere, and then there it disappears. It just seems like super, I don't know, disprovable,
Yeah, my other thing is there's just no highly credible witness in this case. It's really just random townsfolk and children that bring any kind of evidence to the table.
I know. I believe in it a lot, actually. It's more of the fact that these stories kind of happened in the same fucking time frame. And that's kind of what gets me to believe a lot more, is that there's a lot more sightings in that time. There's also the ones that were after it, like maybe one or two. But these stories that happen kind of piece by piece, and you can piece them together, kind of creates a story that I can believe. Now, I don't see how this creature can be a thing, because it kind of reminds me of like a cannibal from the forest, but I don't know. I still believe it a lot more than like Skinwalker.
I can see where you're coming from. That factor that you brought up is definitely something you have to take into account, that it all happened over such a short amount of time. And it's one that I don't really believe in, but I could be pretty easily swayed into giving it some credibility. But I think that draws us to the end of this episode. So, if you enjoy what we do here, please share the podcast with your friends, your family, and dare say, your social media. As we said in the beginning, if you want to get in contact with us, the easiest way to do that is to email us at cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com.
That is.
Want to plug it one more time, Andrew?
CRYPTIDVSCRYPTID@gmail.com.
And if you so feel inclined to do, please leave us a 5-star review. We will read it out on the show. And if you send us an email, we will also respond and give you a shout out live on the show.
At the beginning, right after our compliment section. So.
And yeah, I think that brings us to a full conclusion on this episode. We have one more, and then we will be doing our Cryptid versus Cryptid mashup, episode 3 for this season. So if you enjoyed listening, stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Later.
Peace.
See ya.